Hey guys, it's Brody. Before we get started, I'm going to address a few things about the critique videos in general, about why this one took so long, and about what they're going to be like in the future. If you want to skip all this, just go to this time to actually get started with the critiques. But if you want to listen to my excuses and stuff and more details, then stick around. So, why did this take so long to happen? Well, this video isn't the first version of the critiques that I made. This version is the second try. I actually filmed one quite a while ago that had a lot of flaws, and during the editing I tried to get way too fancy with the graphics, and I just ended up procrastinating and I wasn't happy with it, and I ended up scrapping the whole thing, and that set me back quite a while. And so this version is going to be much more simple with graphic-wise, editing-wise, and I'm going to instead link all of my notes in should be a link to a Google Doc in the description, and you can check all my notes. It'll have all the scrambles, all my solutions, and something extra actually that I didn't include in this video, which is my full walkthrough for what I would have done on each of these scrambles. And so if you want to check that out, it is in the doc. So about the critiques in the future. So first thing, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I'm not going to be accepting any more critiques. This just got way over my head and I couldn't handle it, and that's part of why this took so long. But about the critiques in the future, I'm actually not sure how or if I'm going to make any more. It honestly depends on how well this video does, because if it doesn't do super well, then it's really not worth it to make really detailed critique videos. I might just make one big one where I go over everything sort of generalized for each person instead of making a detailed reconstruction and everything. And that, like I said, this all depends on how well this video does. Two last things before we get started, and these are for the fans and for the guy solving in the critique. So, if you are fast, or even if you aren't, you may see things throughout this video that you think are bad solving habits, bad ways of solving in general. Don't be a jerk about them in the comments. That's not helpful. You can be constructive, but don't be mean. And to HannesCubing, who this critique is for, just to be clear, I am quite advanced. Don't take it too hard if it seems like you aren't doing what I'm doing a lot of the time. What you want to do is think of it as a little victory every time that I say what you do is right, and don't be too hard on yourself when it's not. Use it as a learning opportunity. With that in mind, here's the first critique. HannesCubing's 15.78 average of 5. Here's the first solve. So here is the first scramble. If you want to follow along, it's on the top of the screen, and it will be throughout my reconstruction and stuff of this solve. So to start off, what Hannes did is X2, and then in order to insert this red edge, he did L, F prime, L prime. Then to insert this blue edge, he rotated again and did another L, F prime, L prime. And then to insert this edge, first he lined up everything, and then he did F2. Now I would have started off kind of similarly, but what I would have done is X2 like he did. Same thing, start off by putting in this edge with L, F prime, but instead of doing another L prime or rotating, I would just insert this edge without rotating by doing B, L prime, and then align everything, and then do L. So for his first pair, Hannes saw this pair already solved in front, so he took that out with R, U prime, R prime, then rotated U prime, and then solved it in the back. But I actually would have done this pair first, And I would do that by doing L prime R and then putting that in and realigning both of the layers. But if I were going to do this pair, I would have done sort of an advanced insert, which goes like this: R, U, R, F, R, F prime, R. But what you did is okay. Then your second pair was this corner and edge. And first, Hannes took out the corner and lined that up. Then he took out the pair, U2, and inserted it into the slot. And I would have done the same pair, but I would have done it slightly differently. I would have taken out this edge like that, and then just done this pair. But what you did is at least as good as what I did, frankly. So don't worry about your solution there. That was actually quite clever. And then for your next pair, Hannes did this corner and this edge for the blue and orange pair. And so what he did is U2, R prime, U prime, R to take out that edge, and then U prime, and then he solved this pair like that. Now, this is really where your efficiency started to mess up. What you can do is just take out that edge with R prime, U prime, R, and then U2, and then you can insert that easily, and that's a lot more efficient, and that's definitely what I recommend doing. And then for the last pair, there's this edge and the solved corner. And so what he did is he did U2, R, U prime, R prime to connect them, and then he inserted with a hedge. And that's definitely good, but I would have done something a little bit different. So I would have started off the same by doing U2, R, U prime, R prime, but I would have inserted with F moves, just because I'm comfortable doing that. But if you're more comfortable doing the hedge, that's completely fine. And then OLL, you did U, U2, and then you did the lefty version of that OLL, and that's okay. Except for the part where you did U and then U2, that's something you definitely want to avoid. And I actually would have done a different algorithm altogether. I would have just done U and then do the version in the back, like that, but it ends up doing the exact same thing. And so then you have an R perm already lined up, and you did U, U prime, and then your R perm. And again, the U, U prime stuff is only wasting moves and wasting time, so that's definitely something you should avoid if you can. So I would have done the exact same thing, except without the U, U prime. So in general, based on that solve, there are a few things you should work on. You shouldn't cube rotate for cross if you can avoid it. I would recommend doing the cross from a different angle altogether instead. Also, try to figure out the full solution for each pair before you start doing that pair, so you don't have awkward pauses in the middle and you don't have inefficiency. And work on turning accuracy to avoid lockups like you had on the last pair. And the last thing, try to recognize OLL and PLL without doing AUFs in the middle. With that in mind, let's move on to seeing the second solve. Okay, here is the second scramble. And for this one, he also did another white cross. So he did X2, Y prime, and inspection. Then he starts off by inserting this edge right here, the green one, with R. Then D to move over those two. F to insert this. D again to line everything up. And then he inserts this edge right here with L, F prime, L prime. And that's okay, but again, I have something better. So I would have done yellow cross actually here, because it's a 4-mover. You can see I have this, 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 and this. And if you do R2, then you have these two on opposites. Then you can do B prime, F prime, D. But if you really want to do white cross, or if you can only do white cross, I would have done X2, and then I would have done, let's see, and then I would have done B prime and F at the same time to move over this and insert this edge. Then I would have done R, D, put in that with L, D. So then for your first pair, you did this corner of this edge for red and green pair. So you did U prime, U prime U, R prime U R to take out the edge, U prime, and then you connected them and inserted. I would have actually done the blue and orange pair here just by doing R, U prime, R prime, and then inserting with F moves. But if I were going to do the red and green pair, I would have done a Y and then done that kind of thing instead, just because that's a lot more efficient. Then you did this blue and orange pair, and again, you have a lot of inefficiency on this one. You did U, disconnected them with R, U prime, R prime, and then you connected them like that, rotated and inserted. And again here, I would have actually done a different pair. I would have done this one because I can just do U prime, take that out and insert it. But if I had to do the blue and orange pair, I would have done U, F inverse sexy, F prime, and then inserted it, just because it doesn't have a rotation and, again, efficiency. So then you did your red and blue pair here. So you took out the corner with RU R prime, which sets up to this, U2 rotated, and then U prime back and inserted the pair. I would have done something sort of similar. I would have done R, U prime, R prime, and then do an advanced insert like that. But what you did is actually pretty good, except for the undoing U moves and stuff. So then for your last pair, which is green and orange, you did Y prime, then Y, then connected the pair U2 and insert. And you're spot on there with the solution, except for the unnecessary rotations. So I would have just connected and inserted the exact same way. So then for OLL, you did U prime, then fat F, double sexy, fat F prime. And that is absolutely correct. That's what I would have done as well. So then for PLL, you have this GA perm, and you do U prime, R2U, and you do the wide layer alg. And then at the end you do U2 U prime, and that can be improved in a few ways. I personally prefer the RUD alg. You might not like that one as much, but it's up to you. But again, I recommend RUD. So based on that solve, there are a few more things you should work on. Try not to do U moves to spot your pairs, because that just wastes time and you could just move the cube around a little in your hands to see better. And if you do U moves, only do one of them, not U2 U prime or anything like that, because again, that's more wasted moves. Learn some advanced F2L cases like the one I showed for the blue-orange pair, because those can be really helpful, especially that one in particular. When you have to rotate to insert a pair, either line it up to be inserted before you rotate or after, but don't do it partway before and then partway after, because again, that's just wasting more moves and wasting more time. And last thing, try not to cube rotate if you don't have to. With all that in mind, let's go on to solve number 3. So here is the third scramble, and on this one, even though it looks like an easy white cross, Hannes chose to do yellow. So started off with Y2, you do R prime to put in this red edge relative to the green one, D2 to line everything up, and then FR to finish off cross. And that's actually exactly right. That's what I would have done as well. And then obviously to start, Hannes saw this pair right in front. So he does U prime, then U, then rotates and inserts the pair. But that wastes a whole lot of moves when you could just do either an advanced insert like that, or just rotate and insert it without wasting more moves and stuff like that. And so then Hannes did the blue and orange pair with these two pieces, and so he does U, U prime, then takes out the edge, U, lines them up, rotates, and inserts. Once again, this is following the trend of way too many moves when you don't need to use nearly as many. When you have this kind of position, you can actually just do RU to R prime and you're already lined up for a 3-move insert, and so that's what I would do in that situation. And so then he did the blue and red pair, which is this corner and this edge. And so what he did is took out the edge like that, L prime U2, LU2 to pair it up, and then insert. But actually you can pair up these two while taking out the edge. Just do U prime, connect them, and insert like that, which is much fewer moves, and so that's what you should do. And so then you have your last pair right here, which is just an easy 3-move insert. Well, what he does is Y, U, Y prime, and then he does his insert. And when you can completely take out those rotations and just do U, R prime, U prime, R, and that saves so much time over doing the rotations. So again, I can't emphasize this enough, don't rotate unless you have to. And so then you have the standard TOLL already lined up, so he just does his normal alg for that. And I don't want to make it seem like that was wrong, but you can do COLL there, and it's actually pretty easy. So just U prime, F, sexy, R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, and then you have your corners. But doing COLL isn't too necessary, so don't worry about that, that's not something wrong. And so then you have this JA perm, which is kind of lined up in a weird way. So he does U, and then Y prime, and Y prime again, and does this alg, which is the alg you use for one-handed and maybe for big cubes, but there is actually a much better alg that you can do for regular 3x3, and also you should do whichever alg without rotating. So U2, and then you just have your standard alg, which everybody should know, and then you have your U2 AUF. So based on that solve, the things you should work on are these. When one piece of the F2L pair is in the middle layer, you should connect it to the other piece while you bring it out of the middle layer, so you don't waste moves just taking out the edge. Again, don't cube rotate unless you have to, and even when you have to, don't cube rotate more than once per F2L pair, because at most you need to cube rotate once. And you should learn the JA perm that I use and that just about everybody uses. With that in mind, let's go into solve number 4. So here is the 4th scramble. And so what Hannes did is Y prime, and he sees that he has his green edge already there, and he has red and blue right here, so he does D2, L to put in that relative to the green, F2 to put in the blue, and then D prime to line everything up, U prime to bring over the orange, F2. In this situation, I actually would have done white cross. I would have done Z2 Y prime. I would have put in this red edge B prime, insert this edge, which puts this edge in the right position, and then D2. But if I were going to do yellow cross, I would have done Y prime. I would have inserted this orange edge first, and then D2, and then L2 F2. And then I can just do D prime to line everything up. So for Hannes's first pair, he does the green and red right here. And what he did is R, U prime, R prime, U prime, which takes out the corner, I guess. And then he splits them up with R, U prime, U, and then connects them and solves them. And that, no offense, is just riddling with inefficiency. So what you can do in this situation is really easy. Just do R, U2, R prime, and you're already set up to your 3-move insert, and that saves so many moves over what you did. So then Hannes did the blue and orange pair here, and so he did U prime, connected them, and then did Y and inserted them in the back. And in this situation, I probably would have actually done the blue and red pair, which I would have just connected and then did my advanced insert like that. But for the blue and orange pair, what he did is completely fine. The only difference is I would have done it with F moves, but again, that doesn't really matter that much. Then Hannes did the green and orange pair here. So he did U and L prime, U prime, L, to take that out and line it up, U prime, Y, and inserted it. And that is absolutely the right thing to do, just take it out and insert it, so good job on that one. And then you're left with this last pair, which is an easy U2 and insert like that, and that's exactly what you did. And that is exactly what I would have done in that situation. So your last 2 pairs on that one, great job. So then for OLL, you do U, then U2, and then you do your lefty version of fat F sexy F prime. And I actually don't do like the fat F stuff, I do a different version. So what I would have done is U, and then the lefty version like that. If I was really smart, I would have noticed that this is actually a PLL skip case, where you can do R prime, U prime, hedge, UR, and then you get a PLL skip. And then for PLL, you have your Z perm already lined up. You did M2U, just your normal alg, and then U prime AUF at the end. And I would have done the exact same thing. So near the end of that solve, you did very well. So some things to work on based on that solve. First of all, everything mentioned in the first 3 solves, because there's a little bit of everything in this one. And just a recommendation, you can try doing some F2L inserts with F moves like I've been doing, because I think it's actually really beneficial, but it is subjective. And last thing, predict the AUF on your PLL so you don't have to pause to recognize it when you're done. I actually have like a whole video on this. It's in the card in the top right corner if you want to take a look at it. But without further ado, let's get on to the last solve. So here is the 5th scramble, and so Hannes did a white cross. So he starts off with X2, and he sees like everything here is on opposites. So he starts off with U to move this over, LF prime, and he already has 3 edges on opposites. He does D2, then rotates and does an R prime to finish off his cross. And that is almost identical to what I would have done. I would have done everything the same, except instead of doing Y prime, R prime, I would have just done an F prime to finish off there. So then for Hannes' first F2L pair, he chose blue and red. And so he does U to move over the edge, connects it and inserts it like normal. And I would have done the exact same thing. So again, good job. Then he sees the green and red right here. He does U prime, connects it and inserts into the back. And I would have done the exact same thing. But it is important to note that you could do that on the left as well, which you would have to do if this slot was filled. So it is important to note. And then he has his 3rd pair, which is green and orange. So he connects those up like that, U prime, Y, inserts those in the back. I would have done almost the exact same thing, except I would have done it with F moves instead, but still, basically same thing, good job with the solution. And then for your last pair, you have blue and orange, you do U, Y prime, U, you did F inverse sexy, R, U prime, R prime. Very good solution, except there is a way to do that without rotating in this case. And so what I would have done is U, put the corner in there, then I have that. But again, if you were from that angle where you had orange in front, what you did would have been correct. So then you have this OLL again, you do U2, wide F prime, left sexy, wide F. And I would have done something very similar. I would have done that version again, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. And then you have an F perm, you do U, you do your F perm, and your U prime AUF. And I would have done the exact same thing. And so based on that solve, the things you can work on are trying not to cube rotate for cross. Like I said earlier, if you really need to, do it from a different angle, but don't rotate in the middle of it. Try some F move inserts. They can be a good way to get rid of rotations. Don't cube rotate unless you have to, because cube rotations waste a lot of time. And work on the fluidity of your F perm execution. So in general, you want to work on your F2L efficiency and pair choice. Try not to do X rotations like that to look for pieces. Don't worry about look ahead too much because yours is pretty good. And push your TPS a little bit further, but do it gradually so you don't mess up your look ahead. And last thing, you want to drop the cube for timer stops instead of just putting it down and then stopping the timer. I know you were probably doing that because of your camera setup, but just in case, that is still important to note. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'm sorry it came out so late, but I still hope you enjoyed. If there's anything you want me to do to improve on it for the future, please let me know in the comments. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and if you really want to help me out, you can bookmark the SpeedCubeShop link in the description, because that link helps me earn commission and it helps me make more awesome stuff like this. I'll see you guys later. I hope you have a fantastic day.